Hello everybody, you're welcome back again to the Reggae Appreciation Society. One fine day, late in 1992, I heard a wicked dancehall track booming on the stereo during a reggae music hour on radio. It totally blew my mind, and I just guessed that it had to be some new red-hot Jamaican dancehall rude boy out of Jamaica's vibrant streets. A few months later, I stumbled on a video of the same track to my endless delight and got the shock of the decade. The DJ in question was not Jamaican, but an Irish guy from Canada. This young cat was Darrin O'Brien, aka Snow. Straight out of the rugged Allenbury projects in Toronto, Snow had never set foot on the lovely island of Jamaica, but could toast in rapid-fire paced patois like a Kingston native. His amazing appreciation of reggae and dancehall was yet another statistic of the cultural impact of the wave of immigration of Jamaican migrants to Great Britain, the US, and Canada since the 1950s. Just like their kinsmen had done in America and the UK, Jamaicans established vibrant communities in Canada, the most visible being Eglinton West, otherwise known as Little Jamaica, roughly 10 miles away from where Darrin O'Brien was born and raised. He emerged from a family of gangsters, took to street life very early on, and was no stranger to the inside of jails or courtrooms from the age of 14. His life seemed to be descending into destruction via a life of crime, when out of nowhere, reggae music saved him. His song Informer would explode across the globe in 1992 and into the record books as the highest selling reggae single in history. Let's take a look at Snow, the Irish-Canadian DJ that shocked the world. He was born Darrin Kenneth O'Brien on October 30th, 1969 in Toronto to a hustler-stroke-cab driver father and a hustler-stroke-housewife mother. He was raised in a tough neighborhood called Allenbury Gardens. Simply put, his parents were gangsters like many other adults in that community, and he would grow up idolizing the hard men that he had around him in his formative years. Even before he became a teenager, he was already a member of a tough crew, and he got into fights on a regular basis and was also learning the family business of burglary and shoplifting, and dropped out of school in the 9th grade. He'd grown up a big fan of rock bands, but in 1983, a sizable number of Jamaican immigrants would move into Allenbury Gardens, which had been a purely Irish neighborhood, and he would for the first time get exposed to the infectious sound of reggae music. And by the time a Jamaican family called the Browns moved in right next door, his love for reggae would go into overdrive. He would make friends with the Brown kids and would spend hours at their home every day listening to their reggae tapes and immersing himself in Dennis Brown and Barrington Levy tracks. It was the Brown kids who would take young Darrin to their basement, cut his long rocker hair low, and give him round-rimmed glasses to wear, giving him a new look that was popular with Jamaican youth at the time. He also began to speak patois around the hood and take part in backyard lyrical clashes with other Jamaican kids in Allenbury. And over time, he became a regular face at Jamaican house parties all over Toronto, wowing listeners by singing his favorite reggae artist songs. However, his rough and tumble lifestyle would put him in trouble with the law in 1989 when he was charged to court for double attempted murder. He was actually innocent of the attempted murder charge and was acquitted. But a week after getting out, he was back in jail after breaking a man's jaw during a bar fight. It was while incarcerated that second time that he began to write his own original material and penned several songs about his experiences with the law and street life. And one of these songs was Informer. He got bail during his trial, and along with his pal, Wayne Prince, took a trip to New York in August 1991. It was while chilling with some pals on a sidewalk on Jamaica Avenue in Queens that none other than veteran New York rapper and street legend MC Shan came over to that hood to buy some herb. And while in the neighborhood, Snow, a big fan of Shan, would introduce himself. Someone told Shan that Snow could really sing, and he would ask him to flow something for him. And after a little freestyle, MC Shan was really impressed and invited Snow over to his house to come and lay a few tracks in his home studio the next day. So Snow went over and laid the vocals for the track Informer over the beats that Shan put together. And the result was a red-hot firecracker that Shan just knew would be a hit. But at the same time, he also knew that he would need the finishing touches from a real professional studio. So he took Snow to producers David Eng and Steve Salem, who owned a studio with a 24-track console and were owners of a label called Motojam Records. Now Shan and Snow couldn't afford studio time but struck a deal with the producers. If Snow was tight enough, they would give free studio time and sign him to their label, and the rest is history. Snow blew them away with a freestyle, and they went on that day to record several of his songs. After test marketing one of his songs called Lonely Monday Morning, his music was picked up by East West Records, a subsidiary of Warner Records, and he would go on to record 14 tracks that would make up his eventual debut album 12 Inches of Snow. And the label also quickly organized the shooting of his video for Informer. Snow was forced to quickly return to Canada in September 1992 for his sentencing by the courts. And just as Informer was being released as a single, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison. Informer took off like a rocket and soared up to number 1 on the Billboard charts, knocking off heavy hitters like Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You, as well as Peabo Bryson and Regina Hall's A Whole New World from the top spot, a position it would hold for 7 consecutive weeks. The video for Informer also became the most popular and requested on the planet by the time MTV began to air it in January 1993. And viewers around the globe were stunned to see that the wicked dancehall banger with the rapid-fire toasting they'd been hearing for weeks had been done by a white dude. Meanwhile, Snow, who was behind bars, had no clue that he'd become a superstar on the outside, until a phone call from a friend let him know what was going on and that his video was trending on cable music stations everywhere. The prison authorities would air his video during the weekly movie night shows, and Snow, along with his fellow inmates, went crazy with excitement when it came on, and his sentence was commuted to 8 months, and he was picked up from jail in a limousine, making his transition from street thug to global megastar. Informer had not only topped the chart in the US, but also went to number 1 in Denmark, Finland, Germany, Ireland, Norway, Sweden, and Switzerland, as well as top 10 in 9 other European countries. The album 12 Inches of Snow sold more than 8 million copies, and Informer would go into the Guinness Book of Records as the best-selling reggae single in US history, as well as highest-charting reggae single ever. His second single from the album, titled Girl I've Been Hurt, also did well in the charts, and Snow would go on a whirlwind global tour, blowing audiences away everywhere before taking a rest and preparing for his next album. But despite these exploits, he would receive negative comments from Western music critics for not being real enough in his lyrics, which is pure nonsense when you consider that the man was no studio gangster but a real-life badass before music saved his life. And he also received knocks from dancehall icon Shaggy, but ironically, Snow was warmly accepted by a large cross-section of Jamaican listeners, and also the likes of Ninja Man, Barrington Levy, and numerous dancehall legends from Jamaica. In fact, for his second album, he traveled to Jamaica to record a compilation called Murder Love, which came out in 1995. If 12 Inches of Snow had been a massive world beater, Murder Love would give him street credibility on another level in Jamaica. He would feature artists like Ninja Man, Junior Reid, and Half Pint, among others. But it was a remix of the track Anything For You, originally a song done with just him and Nadine Sutherland, that would cement his legacy as a dancehall icon. That remix was produced by Tony Kelly, then of Penthouse Records. After the original got a massive response at a party in Kingston, everybody who heard it at that party loved the song to bits, and not to mention a number of dancehall superstars who were also at the event. And when Tony Kelly began putting the remix together, Beanie Man, Buju Banton, Terror Fabulous, Culture Knox, and Louis Culture just had to be part of it. The remix of Anything For You would hit number 1 on the Jamaican charts and became the island's top-selling single of 1995. But despite the album's critical acclaim, legal troubles would prevent that album from coming anywhere near the commercial success of his debut. He was banned from entering the US and Japan, and his music was blacklisted from US radio stations and TV, and that would stifle the album's performance and sales. But despite that setback, he maintained a big presence on the international reggae and dancehall scene, and would record 6 successful studio albums over the next 20 years. And almost 27 years after Informer hit the streets, megastar Puerto Rican rapper Daddy Yankee remade the track with a reggaeton spin with the track Con Calma in 2019. And that track that featured Snow has since become a monster hit that's gone platinum 15 times and currently has 2.8 billion views on YouTube alone. And from what I've heard, the royalties and payments from that remake adds up to a very nice payday. Not bad for a guy who was running the streets and shoplifting before he'd even entered his teens. Snow's journey makes for a lovely success story and a highly unlikely one. An Irish-Canadian kid who had never set foot in Jamaica but would become just one of dancehall's biggest names of all time. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe, and until next time, Jah bless.